BoxBox Hub is an absolute essential for any Formula One fan, and the entire app with new widgets, statistics, localized race schedules, and countdowns, you name it. They even have support for Apple's new live activities feature with real-time updates during a race right on the lock screen, and honestly, some of the best looking widgets I've seen.
Welcome along everybody, we are back for silver. and it's been a nice long break for me. Unfortunately, I didn't get many breaks in there, but fantastic stuff indeed. And Indigo has already said well done to fantastic high driver of the day from yesterday, so I'll take that. Of course, a fantastic racing gold last night in the Suzuka circuit. Of course, here we are for silver tonight, then round 12 of the 17th round season. We're into the final sector of the season, of season 10 of ALR, that is, and looking forward to what F1 24 will bring in the new season as well then. But so far, we've got some more action coming up here, and it looks like Ginner is leading the way. Then it's a very rainy Suzuka circuit here tonight. Then in qualifying, that is, we'll have to wait and see what it's going to be like in the race itself. Then Gordo has said he loves a bit of rain though, so that is good stuff indeed. Promising stuff indeed there. Ginner unfortunately hasn't validated that. We'll come back to him. We'll go over to Craig R then in the Ferrari. Welcome back then to silver then. Oh dear. It seems like I'm cursing all the drivers then going through turn one. But he hasn't invalidated this time, Craig R, so we'll have to stay on board with him. Yeah, welcome back to silver then. This is going to be an epic race indeed, especially if the rain holds up. If the rain in the race is something to behold, then we'll have to tackle the Suzuka circuit then with a sprinkling then of precipitation, if that's a word. I think it's a word. I'm pretty sure it's a bit too big for my brain. Evening from Rocket Lisa then, and Bonjour said Gordo as well. Then rain will dry up throughout the session, so he doesn't expect it to be too wet, too rainy at the end of this qualifying. 18 minutes, of course, we have jumped in early this evening because we've got everybody in then in pronto time. Pronto is the wrong word. We're in Japan, not Suzuka, not Monza, I should say, but I'm not quite sure what the word for quick is in Japanese, but I'm not quite sure what any words are in Japanese, to be fair. But konnichiwa then to our streamers or our followers in the stream, and konnichiwa then to the drivers on track then as we go through towards the famous 130R then for Craig R in the Ferrari. Of course, purple in sector 1. He is the first driver to set a time on the board, or who will be the first driver to set a time on the board if he keeps it valid. And into the Casio triangle we go then for the Ferrari then, and looking to try and repeat then the form of Carlos Sainz in the Sunday morning race. It was very early on, 38-3 from the Ferrari to set herself underway, as we will try and crack on and see who's going to be next across the line. Gordo on an outlet, so he's not going to be next across the line. I think Hassal, who is reserving tonight in place of TK, is the next across the line, then looking to jump into the AlphaTauri seat. Oh, he's almost gone into the pit lane there, I think, trying to control the car then, and he goes into P2 with the 38.4, then displaced by MHD, who is the other reserve in the Alpine for pot stuff, who has got himself into the 36s. Then fantastic stuff indeed there from MHD. He is looking very strong indeed then in the Alpine, and on his first reserve appearance then in ALR as well. Then looking forward to seeing what the Alpine driver can do. Then sweet repeat then 38.3 for the McLaren driver. Good stuff indeed to get himself underway. Here comes Mumford then round the spoon curve. A lovely little spoon then, if you well, it's a big spoon actually, that one, but love a little spoon and a big spoon at the same time, so there we go. Yeah, no comment on that one. Here we go then. Ultimate Beast coming up to the line. Let's see what the Ultimate Beast can do. He's up into P2 at 38.0 then for the Ultimate Beast. Good stuff indeed, getting himself underway here, as it looks like MHD has got a very impressive intermediate setup then on that Alpine car as it stands at Mumford up into P2, 37.2 then for the AlphaTauri, looking strong here. Mr. Elite then 36.9. I think Gordo is right. His teammate's done a fantastic job then. So is Ginner then into a 36.7 as well then. Both the times tumbling in, all the times tumbling in now as well then, as we can see. I think the track maybe is drying up, like Gordo said in the comment section as well. Very early on then he already knew what the weather was going to be doing here in Suzuka, which is very unpredictable to say the least. But we had a nice sunny race in gold last night and a lot of action as well. Here comes Gordo up to the line. It's P1 for Gordo with a 36.0 then. I think that is very good stuff indeed. And of course he got a podium then in Australia 2 weeks ago now, with the break week in between then. So Gordo looking to try and regain or keep on his form in the Mercedes thing. Mr. Elite looking strong indeed in this qualifying session. Craig R into P6 at the moment. He's improved to a 37.6 as we've got more drivers, more times coming along the line. As here comes Sweet P. Then can he get himself on pole position? Then let's up to P3, a 36.4, sorry, for the McLaren driver into P3. Looking good indeed. I hear the spell of Sean in your commentary. I don't know why. Well, yeah, I wish I could get that good. But, oh my God, I thought there was somebody crashing there, but it was Craig. I was just getting out of the way then. But no, I wish I could be as good as the Ginger Raid that is on the commentary box for gold and for bronze. So there we go. But yeah, I think you're probably just getting me confused. I'm getting confused because I think that's pretty much the sound that Sean emanates throughout his streams. But no, I can't take anything away from Sean. He's a great commentator indeed, and we wouldn't be here without him for sure. Mumford up into P1, a 35, then the first of the 35s. Then as we get the AlphaTauri then into the top spot, then that is where Yuki Tsunoda would love to be here in Japan. And at the moment, he has got it. Well, there is an AlphaTauri on the top step as it stands, and got quite a few drivers at times tumbling in here. They've got Vessia, they go purple in sector 2. Of course, he jumped into the Mercedes last night for the silver, for the gold race, that is, and did a good job as well. Then got the fastest lap point as well, then so stole it away then from the gold drivers as well. And looking forward to seeing what Vessia can do then as he comes down the hill towards the start-finish line once again, and he goes up into P3, a 36.278 then for the Alfa Romeo driver. I think we've got quite a few drivers out of position at the moment. There's quite a few drivers then waiting, I think, for the rain to stop falling. Dylan though is on track then, coming up to the spoon curve now. Let's see what the McLaren driver can do for his first attempt here. Unfortunately, he did invalidate his first run, so this is his second attempt. Then he's not got himself round the circuit so far smoothly enough. And let's see what the McLaren driver can do. Can he get a nice little distant tow then from that Red Bull? I think that Red Bull is coming back to the pit lane. Then we've got Ultimate Beast then coming through 130R, then flying through then into sector 3, purple in sector 2 as well then for the McLaren. Let's see if he can cement his championship charge. Then currently P2 in the standings for McLaren, for Dylan I should say. McLaren are also P2 in the standings I believe as well, then behind the two Haas pairs, as we've got a bit of a smash then in the pit lane. Then Dylan then takes pole position as it stands, then a 35.0, then 8/10 of a second ahead of P2, and 9 minutes left of the session still, so it could still dry up a bit more then for those who are not yet coming out of the pit lane now, not yet to set a time on the board. Evening all from Serious Mushroom then. Alex Combs has always been amazing, and you should have heard Raging Bull's reaction when Vessia took his fastest lap away yesterday. That was yeah, I think to be fair, thank you very much for the compliment, that is, I'll have to say, but I'm not one for taking compliments, so I'm not very good at it, but very nice indeed. I will definitely take it, but I will keep on trying to improve. I think that's the mantra. That's the mantra in league racing as well, isn't it? But there we go then. And unfortunately for Mr. Rajan, he did have the fastest lap then last night, up until Vessia did steal it away then on the last couple of laps, I think there. Dopey Lemons then into the 130R, flying through then for his first attempt. Let's see what the Williams driver can do. He is the first Williams driver on track then to set a time. Let's see what the precedent can be from the Williams team. Unfortunately, Albon had a bit of a smash then in turn 3 on the first lap of the race. Then Dopey Lemons up into P6, no harm done for this Williams driver. Let's see what his teammate can do. Fandro is back on the pit lane, so Fandro abandons his time, I should say, into the Casio triangle for Mag. He is the championship leader. Let's see what the other Ferrari can do. Can he get himself back up into pole position? Can he rival Dylan then, his championship contender? He's P2 then by 0.3 of a second. Then that is looking promising stuff indeed then from Dylan, who needs to try and gain some momentum then on his rival then, and of course the other rival of Bath, which nobody needs to know about. But there we go. So I'm sorry, Far, but there we are. So into the Casio triangle once again. Then it looks like Reflection coming back to the pit lane, and he's not set a time on the board just yet, unfortunately for him. Yellow flags then in sector 2, and I think that's just cars getting out of the way of each other here. As into Decna 2 goes the Haas of Farf, then trying to get himself a first time on the board. And there we go. Like I was saying, yeah, very sorry to the people who I'm ruining their Monday evening with the commentary, but yeah, I'll try my best. There we are then. Serious Mushroom from evening. Unserious Mushroom says Troy. Evening to Troy. Mushroom Troy is having a shit. I shouldn't have said that because that's rude. But there we go then. You made me say a bad word because I literally was just reading out the comments exactly as they're written. So I will have to try and refrain from doing that. I think that's my rustiness then from being away last week as well then. So yeah, I'm sorry for the profanities then if anybody's listening who was offended. But yeah, there we go. Yeah, an evening from Vintage as well. Then Vintage, of course, our star streamer, or star stream follower or supporter or whatever you are. But I think we did pick up a name for Vintage last round, but I completely forgotten it. It's 2 weeks ago. It's too long ago for me to remember. Then Farf up into P3, Jinner then into the 34s, a 34.8 then for the Aston Martin, looking great indeed. Then so is Max, then he's improved to a 34.9, and he is only half a tenth away from pole position as it stands. 6 minutes left of the session here in the Suzuka circuit. Then Dopey Lemons has improved to a 35.4, puts himself P5, looking strong indeed. Then MHD Nick, I think it is, or I'm not gonna try and guess what it stands for then, but MHD is in P9. He started off the precedent then in qualifying with a fantastic lap time indeed. Then can he improve even further then into the 34s? Then he has got himself in the 34s. It's a 34.8 then as well then for the Alpine, as Nigel then sets time, puts himself P6, but Gordo has gone faster still with the 34.7. Gordo is on form here tonight, and after a fantastic podium then in Australia 2 weeks ago, then he is looking strong once again in Suzuka. Evening Rocket then, traditions from Troy. And how's your fuel? Says Indigo. Then I think I'm not quite sure if that's referring to yesterday or referring to something else, but there we go. As Nigel then down to P6, and Mr. Elite looking strong. Both of Mercedes actually looking very strong indeed then here in qualifying in Suzuka tonight. Then Mr. Elite then is coming through the S's. Then there's a Ferrari just getting out of the way, I think, of Max as we go through into, oh my goodness, he's losing the back end, then sliding out of the Dunlop corner and into the first deck. Now he's gone purple in sector 1 there. He's still improving though on that time, even with that back end loss. He's now got himself through under the bridge, of course. A fantastic, famous figure of 8 circuit, this one, and this is where it gets very spicy indeed then through the hairpin. Then you can get it very all wrong through there, but Mr. Elite has got it all spot on as we go through. Then his teammate is getting out of the way in the form of Gordo. As we fly down, Moomin Ninja said, yeah, I'm all good. A lot of rubbish and a busy weekend, sorry. But hopefully he is ready for tomorrow. The good stuff indeed, of course. Bronze, it's going to be here in Suzuka tomorrow night as well. And we will have some fantastic action then from Bronze in about 24 hours time. So not too long to wait then. But of course, you've got to get Silver out of the way first. And Silver, if anything goes, we're going to be putting on a cracking show here tonight then for the Silver Stallions, I can call them. I'm not quite sure if I can call them that, but there we go. Then that's probably sexist or something. But there we go. Then unfortunately, Mr. Elite has invalidated this time. But Mr. Beast, I'm getting my YouTubers mixed up. It's Ultimate Beast then up into P1 with a 34.1, and I think very happy with that time as well. Then wiggling the wheel as we go down the main straight then to get himself around onto his next lap or in lap as well. Then fantastic stuff indeed. Currently the Red Bull on pole position. We saw a Red Bull on pole position on Sunday morning, and currently in Silver it is going that way as well. Hassel then done a 35.0, then he's got himself into P7 then on his first reserve appearance then this season, and looking strong. Oh dear, he's not looking strong there. He's gone over the Casio triangle then, I think, trying to get himself back to the pit lane. That's the old pit entry, and he has got himself into the box then. Good stuff indeed. Then Fanja then starting off a lap. Then R2 Beat then is the other one on circuit at the moment. He's on soft compound tyres. Then we have to switch over to the tyre compounds. Soft compound tyres. I completely missed it. I just assumed everyone's going to be on intermediate compound tyres, but everybody now is starting to switch on to the soft compound as the rain has stopped falling, and I think we might see a late run. Oh dear, losing the back end as well. I think it's still slippery out on circuit then for the Aston Martin as we go into the hairpin now as well. I think a lot of drivers in waiting for the last minute then before when the circuit is driest, even though I think it might still have a few damp patches on the track, as Nigel set the medium compound tyres then for his Haas car. I'm not quite sure what's going on in the garage then, but yeah, each to their own. So fair play. But yeah, everyone now going on to the soft compound tyres. It looks like then the last couple of runs here in qualifying will be on the softs. It looks like the rain has stopped falling now, and I think as R2 Beat is going purple in sector 2, I think now it's the time to switch on to the soft compound tyres. So those who have been waiting in the wings, then waiting very patiently indeed as we go into the Casio triangle then for R2 Beat. His only time going to be on the board here tonight in qualifying, I think, unless he can get himself back round again then. But he's up into P3 then with a 34.8 then as well. Good stuff indeed then from the Aston Martin. Puts himself on the second row of the grid as it stands, but I think There's going to be some more times to be tumbling in. Here comes Fangio then up to the line. What can Fangio do? It's pole position then with 33.5 then for the Williams driver. Good stuff indeed then, but I think sometimes it's going to be beaten over, I think there. I'm not quite sure who's going to be coming out in the pit lane now. Out of the pits, I think everyone is coming there as we can. We can have a nice little supporting bash in the background. I hopefully you can't hear that then, but there's people hammering away in the background. But there we are. But good stuff indeed then for R2B then, and Fangio then P4 for R2B as it stands then. Fangio on pole position, but I think there could be some more people improving their times. We'll have to wait and see. Of course, the track is drying out more and more. Reflections still in the pit lane. Then he, unfortunately, I'm not quite sure what's going on there as well. Oh no, it's just people warming up their tyres. I thought that was going to be some sort of collision then, but thankfully not. So here we are then, we are going to get ourselves underway. R2B then is not underway just yet, then he's coming back to the pit lane. I think then unfortunately for R2B, I think that mistimed, same for Fangio as well, maybe a bit mistimed then on their first laps then on the board. Here comes Sweet then to start us off then on the soft compound tyres. This is going to be basically a one-shot qualifying, even though we've had 18 minutes of it because of the rain giving up then halfway through the session then, and now the track looks pretty dry out there already, so maybe these times are going to be pretty impressive stuff indeed, and we'll have to wait and see. The drivers of course are not really too confident on this circuit as it stands there, because of course they've probably adapted to the rainy conditions that they've been facing in the first 15 minutes or so. But here comes Sweet then, he's going to be very quick indeed on those soft compound tyres. Now the track's dried up as well, then here comes the McLaren into sector 2. 2.5 tenths up on his time in sector 1 then. It's definitely time for the soft compound tyres if you weren't mistaken. I think that's pretty much confirmed it, hasn't it? But now into the hairpin we go then for the McLaren, the driver that I think he's going to be very happy with his time if he can get himself onto the around the lap validly, that is. But he has got himself 2.5 tenth improvement. That would put him in the range of P2 as it stands, and of course there's still 2 sectors to go then for the McLaren driver as well. Then round the spoon curve we go, then timer has ticked on, and that is qualifying done and dusted. Mr. Elite Farf, Reflection, Ultimate Beast and Gordo then are not going to be able to improve on their times, which could be problematic then for those 5 drivers. Fangio back in the pit lane as well, then he might be in a bit of danger as well then for that pole position. Here comes Sweet then. I think Sweet might be taking that pole position away then from the Williams driver. Then here he comes through the Casio Triangle then down towards the start finish line. Let's see what it's going to be. It's at 30.7 and he's almost 3 seconds faster than his rivals. Then Craig up into P3, Vessier up into P3, no, MHD up into P1, takes pole position, Mumford P2. The time's tumbling in here as well in the last few knock-ins then of qualifying, as here we go then into the Casio Triangle then for Jenner. Then let's see what he's going to do. Kamara Racer up into P3. There's all sorts of times tumbling in now as well. 300p then down to P4, Dopey Lewins P5. Here comes Jenner up into P1 with a 30.0. Fantastic stuff indeed. Here it comes, no, that's Nigel then going off the circuit, and unfortunately for him, Mags is all over the place. It's all chaos here in qualifying, and I can't keep up then. We'll have to run through the qualifying classification very shortly. Here comes Dylan then. He's coming around the Casio Triangle then, trying to get himself back on pole position. Can he do it this time? Yes, he can. It's a 29.3 then for the McLaren driver. Fantastic stuff indeed. Here comes Mags, the championship leader though. Can he take that pole position away then into the final couple of quarters? And here he comes up to the line. Let's see what Mags can do. And I think it's P2. And I think Dylan takes pole position. Yes, he does. Then Dylan in the McLaren, then in P2 in the standings then, but he's taken pole position here in Suzuka then in style as well. That final few runs, as I'm already sweating then, and I haven't even started the race. So 29.3 then for Dylan, then puts himself on pole position. Both the Irishmen on the front row as Mags, the championship leader then in P2. Ginner with a fantastic qualifying P3 then in the Aston Martin. Then that was a great time indeed. Then MHD on his first reserve appearance, then P4. Mumford in P5. Camaro P6. Sweet MGP P7. Dopey Lemons P8. Vessier in P9. R2B rounds off the top 10 then. Craigar in P11. Hassau in P12. Fangio then unfortunately didn't get a great time in at the end then in P13. Ultimate Beast in P14. Didn't get him time on the softs. Gordo, same for him in P15. Nigel in P16. Didn't get a valid lap in. Mr. Elite the same. Same for Far from Reflection and Irvine. Unfortunately didn't get a time in at all then. So that is your qualifying order then for the Suzuka or the Japanese Grand Prix.
BoxBox Hub is an absolute essential for any Formula One fan, and the entire app with new widgets, statistics, localized race schedules, and countdowns, you name it. They even have support for Apple's new live activities feature with real-time updates during a race right on the lock screen, and honestly, some of the best looking widgets I've seen.
Right then, we are ready to get going here for the Japanese Grand Prix. The rain has disappeared and it is nice and sunny in Suzuka, which is fantastic to see. Look at that combination of strategies then, or contradiction of strategies then, all over the place then for the silver grid then, as we get ourselves through the formation lap then. We've had Indigo said I think it could be a one-lap shootout on the soft compound tyres. He was definitely right at the very end there as well. As I think we talked about going too early on the soft compound tyres, as we saw I think Fanjo and R2B do at the end of that set, or towards the end of that session as well. Can't remember yesterday's Serious Mushroom then, so we can't remember every race, which is fair enough indeed. I can't remember what happened in gold last night for myself, to be fair. Surely it'll be a 28 then. I think it was a 29-3, wasn't it then, for Dylan, who got himself on pole position as well then, having a beer then for Serious Mushroom, and unfortunately for Rocket Lizo's got to come out, but he says good luck to those in silver. Right then, we've got a bit of a combination of strategies. Like I said then, Dylan, Mags and Ginner then, the top three on the medium compound tyres. MHD is up there for the hard compound tyres in P4. Mumford and Kamara then P5 and P6 then on the medium compound tyres. Then we've got a whole host of soft compound tyres then, from Sweet NDP in P7 all the way down to Craig R in P11 then. So 5 drivers then on the soft compound tyres just inside the points as well then. Medium compound tyres for Hassel then in the AlphaTauri course reserving tonight then in place of TK. Fandra then on the hard, same for Ultimate Beast in P13 and 14 respectively. Gordo and Nigel then P15 and P16. Not a great qualifying in the end, unfortunately. It looked like they was going strong then for Gordo at one point then, but unfortunately Nigel didn't get timing on the board on the soft compounds then, and that is why he's starting to go down the field then for his championship contention in P4 on the standings as it stands at the moment. Of course, it stands before this race, that is. But starting down in P16 then, Mr. Elite on the soft compounds in P17, then Farf and Reflection and Irvine from P18 down to P20, then round off the grid, and they are starting on the hard compound tyres for this opening stint of the Japanese Grand Prix. And Vintage ended for 2 months, 2 months member now for Vintage, and he's put come on Mercedes then in the comment section as well then, so supporting the Gordo and the Mr. Elite then in this race as well. Good stuff indeed, and thank you very much to Vintage then for being a member then of the channel then for 2 months as well. I think I've managed to get that far as well, to be fair, so congratulations then to Vintage. You are an original member, an OG member, even though it's 2 months old, so there we go then. But enough about that then. We'll get ourselves ready for the start of this Japanese Grand Prix, hopefully, as the 5 red lights are coming on here in Suzuka. The 5 red lights are out then, and away we go then for the start of the Japanese Grand Prix. A good start then from R2B. There's a few issues then, I think, in the background. Then there's an Alpine all over the place as well then. Vessia then going very slowly as well then into P20, down to P20 unfortunately for him as well then. There's all sorts of action going through the field as we've got a spinner then of a Williams there in Dopey Lemons, unfortunately off the circuit at turn, turn 2. And unfortunately, similar to what Albon was involved with, thankfully no red flags in this race, but unfortunately for one Williams then it's been a bit of a carbon copy as Vessia has retired then in the car. I'm not quite sure what's happened to Vessia as well then. I think he had an issue getting himself into the session then on the formation lap, and I think that is well, it's not anything to do with him, it's to do with the game then glitching him out then. Unfortunately, I think we've seen a few people have that issue over the oh my goodness me, there's a hassle all over the place there as well. But yeah, I think we've got, as Vessia has rejoined, but his car is not in the race anymore, unfortunately for Vessia, as we go through the hairpin now. Very cleanly done indeed. Unfortunately for Dopey Lemons, and he's got getting himself back in this race now. I think he's got his front wing intact, and he's not too far off. Hassel has dropped down as well, 8 places, sorry, for the AlphaTauri. Unfortunately for both those drivers, they've come off worse than the top 4 have remained the same. Kamara Racing's got himself past Mumford, then is chasing down the top 4 as well, then in the Alfa Romeo, I should say, as we go towards 130R then for the first time here, as piling through then, a quick pace indeed then into the Casio Triangle as well then. Good stuff indeed so far. Unfortunately, I think we had just one incident there which was involving Dopey Lemons and I think Hassel as well, as they both went off the circuit. Then Mr. Elite's got himself up into P15 then on the soft compound tyres, pushing on now as well. Then R2B has lost out, then R2B is back in the pit lane, so R2B has got some sort of issue then for the Aston Martin driver. He's back in, he's into the pit lane for the first time, that is. Nigel's got himself past Ultimate Beast, then up into the top 10 now for Nigel, looking strong indeed, then trying to get himself back up into points contention here in the Haas after a very difficult qualifying indeed. R2B then is in for a wing change as well, So unfortunately for the Aston Martin, there has been a problem then somewhere on the opening lap then for him as well. Then Dylan then is trying to stretch his legs, and he's almost got a 1 second gap then to his championship rival then of Mags in P2. Jinner is holding on very well indeed as well in P3, and MHD then on the hard compound tyres looking strong as it stands as well. Kamara Racer trying to hold on to this battle as well. He's 1.1 seconds back then. He needs to try and stay within that 1 second window. Down the inside then goes the AlphaTauri. Oh, and he's had a bit of a problem then on the curbs then, and that has cost him a place then to Fangio then for Mumford, sorry. And now he's got Gordo then for a bit of company as well then towards the spoon curve then, but Gordo then sitting back then. He's gained 6 places then. He is looking quite strong indeed then. Nigel then has caught up to this battle as well then, into the top 10 then for Nigel then, trying to get himself some more points on the board then. Favre and Ultimate Beast battling away through the spoon curve, and Favre has got himself through as well then, up into P11 I should say. Serious Mushroom then has Troy's race is starting wipe, says Serious Mushroom. But that is very graphic stuff indeed. As Craig are looking to go for a move on the Ultimate Beast, then down the inside, not quite, then a bit too far back then to try and make that move. And Matt has got himself back in contention now with the race leader, then the pole sitter then of Dylan as well, as we go through into turns 1 and 2. Sweet Repeat has got himself past Kamara Racer. Now DRS has been enabled then on this lap. Sweet Repeat on the soft compound tyres is going to be a bit quicker than the Alfa Romeo, I would imagine, at this stage of the race on those softs compared to the medium compound tyres. Well, then here comes Ultimate Beast and Craig are then through the S's section. Craig has got himself ahead then on the soft compounds up into P12. Then Ultimate Beast dropping behind his teammate now as well. Unfortunately, Ultimate Beast looks like he's struggling out there on the hard compound tyres at this stage of the race. And unfortunately for the Red Bull, then it was looking good in qualifying. He's off the circuit then as well. Then unfortunately for the Red Bull, he's just gone for a bit of dirt rallying then. He's come back on behind Reflection then as well. I'm not quite sure what happened then through the Dunlop corner, but he's lost control of the car. Then he's got himself back up in control then, but he's lost out 2 places then to Mr. Elite and Reflection at the same time. But still sticking at it then. Good stuff indeed out in front. The gap now half a second. Yes, it is half a second, sorry. I haven't got me timings reported as Hassau is out of the race then, and that is going to be a safety car, I'd imagine, or a virtual safety car at least. And he's at the exit of the hairpin somehow, so not quite sure how he has lost the car there, but he is out of the race, and that is 2 drivers out of the Grand Prix on lap 3. Unfortunately for Vessia, then he had no control of his DNF. It was the game then doing the glitch then off the start after you lagged out of the lobby. But for Hassau then we didn't see what happened there, but I think he had an issue then at the exit of this corner here. But we can't see where his car is now, unfortunately. So the VSC has been deployed. So this is the first VSC, then the first safety car, you could say, of the evening. We didn't have we did have a safety car last night in Golden. We of course, unfortunately for Nigel, and he had a big crash then in the S's section. So we've been gifted a membership then by Vintage then on the charge once again then for the memberships as well. Then fantastic stuff indeed then, as we've got Williams again. This is Vintage. Unfortunately, I think it's the curse of the Williams at Suzuka, isn't it? That first lap usually causes a few issues, doesn't it, as well? Dopey Lemons is in the pit lane, so he's using the VSC to get a wing change as well. Hassau has left the session, then virtual safety car I believe is going to be starting to end then. Ultra Beast coming out the pit lane now as Dopey Lemons is just about cruising underway as we go through into lap 4 as VSC drive-through penalty for Ultimate Beast, and it's going from bad to worse then for Ultimate Beast. Then he has got a drive-through penalty, then he has to serve at the in the next 3 laps or so. Then Fangio is being pushed through the corners then by Kamara Racer, who's lost out to the Williams car as we go through in towards the spoon curve onto lap 4 of 27 here. But Vintage then, fantastic stuff indeed then from the number 1 fan. Then he is an absolute star in the comment section is Vintage, and thank you very much Vintage. Of course, oh my goodness, I thought Kamara Racer was going to be flying off the circuit then, but he kept the back end in check just about then. But he has lost a bit of time then to Fangio. Then the top from P3 of Jinner then all the way down to Nigel in P10 then are all in this DRS train as we go through 130R in towards the Casio triangle now to start off lap 5. MHD then is trying to put pressure on Jinner at this stage, and he's on the hard compound tyres. We'll switch to the tyre compound, to see what everybody is using in this first stint. And unfortunately for Ultimate Beast, then he's got that drive-through penalty to serve. Then Dopey Lemons has switched to the medium compound tyres and R2 beat as well with that wing change at the end of lap 1. And it's on the hard compounds, looking to go long then in this stint and get himself back in the race as well then. So unfortunately for those 3 drivers, they're a big shame indeed. They're out, not out of this race just yet then, but they are out of the order as it stands. Which is not where they want to be, of course. And Vesio saying he's got a glitch there where he lagged out and then when he came back, the car is DNF'd then. So yeah, it's happened before, but unfortunately there is not much you can do about it apart from not lagging out is the only thing you can do really. Ultra Beast coming into the pit lane to serve his drive-through penalty, then Mumford has got himself past Kamara Racer then before the hairpin of oh my goodness me, that Alfa Romeo then almost into the back of the AlphaTauri then to go through the hairpin section, then Mumford up into P7 then, looking good for one of the AlphaTauris then at this stage. Unfortunately for Hassel, he's out of the race then. But yeah, looking good for one of the AlphaTauris. Of course, the only AlphaTauri left in the Grand Prix, as we've got a very wide Williams then. Not literally, but he was going wide through the spoon curve then. That might have been a warning then for Fangio, then, who's on the hard compound, of course. So he's looking to go long in his first stint. Then soft compound tyres for Sweet 100p then is the only, well, one of the only runners then. Only 3 remain then after, I think we had about 7 or 8 of them start on the soft compound. But only 3 remain then. That is with Sweet 100p then, Craig Guy and Mr. Elite then, who are in the fight then on the soft compound. As oh my goodness me, then trying to get the car under control then for Sweet 100p. He's in the pit lane now and calling it a day then on those soft compound tyres already. Then I think that indicated that the soft compounds were not too happy. Then here comes Kamara Racer then. He's going to go for a move then on the inside. And Mumford, where is Mumford going? He's off the circuit, miles away off the circuit then for Mumford. And he's lost out then to Gordo as well. Then Nigel was all over the back of him as well here. But Mumford holds on to the place at least. Then Irvine, I think Irvine is, oh my goodness me, Irvine, where is Irvine going? And I thought I saw something going on there. There was an overtake, I think, then from Irvine on Craig R. But going through the S's section side by side is not the best thing you can do, as we've lost the angle then. But Irvine then has Irvine the Humphrey. He has had that spin then on the hard compound tyres. And all those hard compound tyres have a few issues then, a few spots on those on that compound. Now he has to go and get into the pit lane to withdraw and put on another set of compound tyres, as another tyre compound, I should say. So far he's carrying on then. Unfortunately that has cost him a bit of time then, has that spin then for Irvine. Craig R then is all over the back of Mr. Elite. Then Mr. Elite is just outside. He's 3 seconds behind the top 10 as it stands. Both the Hassels have got themselves in the top 10 at the moment. Then Favre then is 2.6 seconds behind his teammate, but Nigel then is in this train for the top points and reflection. And Craig R switching places. Craig R's off the circuit then at the spoon curve. Then he's got himself back underway, but unfortunately that's cost him a place and some time then to his rivals as well. Then Craig R dropping down to P13 as it stands, and into the Casio triangle then for Nigel then and Favre. Not Favre just yet. Then Favre is 2.8 seconds back. Then here comes Nigel then on the back of Mumford. Then as we've got more action going on ahead as well. Jenner has been passed by MHD. Then up into the podium places. Then for MHD in the Alpine. Nigel and Mumford then switching places into turn 1 as well. Then Mumford dropping down to P9 and Nigel back up into P8 as it stands as well. Then MHD has taken that final podium place away from Jenner as it stands as well. And those hard compound tyres looking strong in the Alpine here tonight then. Good stuff. Fangio then is also on the hard compound tyres as well. He's getting some good places then after that difficult qualifying as well. And now up into P5, looking strong on those hard compounds as well. Then can he follow the MHD through? Not quite sure what MHD stands for, but I won't want to speculate. But can he follow MHD through then and try and get himself into contention potentially for a win here as well? We'll have to wait and see how the strategies play out then. But he's not too far away then as it stands, and could be in contention. We'll have to wait and see then. Kamara Racer is now up into 6th place, but he's now out of DRS range, and Gordo is fighting with him as well. Then here comes Gordo then into P7 now, and into the spoon curve we go. Then he's going to have some DRS to play with down the main straight, I think, if he keeps this close then to the Alfa Romeo ahead into the Casio triangle. Then where's the detection point? There's only one DRS zone around here, unfortunately. There could be some nice DRSing down this straight towards 130R. I think that'd be a bit too dangerous then for the drivers. But yeah, I think we didn't have DRS at one point down there a long time ago. That was. Early for that then says Sweet then says Sirius Russian then switching to the hard compound tyres for the McLaren Sweet 100p. Then he's down to P15, but of course he's made a strategic call then to go on the hard compound tyres very early on, as Sirius Russian has said. Then into turn 2 and 3 then, and Gino then all over the back now of the Alpine of MHD. Mags and Dylan are stretching their legs out in front of 3.1 second gap then to the Alpine as it stands at the moment. Of course those medium compound tyres will drop off quicker than those on the hards. So the likes of MHD and Fangio might phase into the race then very soon as the mediums start to fade away. We'll have to wait and see. Again, I've had a fantastic couple of stints then through the gold race last night on the medium compact tyres. I think some people did about 20 laps on them, which was incredible stuff indeed, and I was struggling on the hard. As Jenner going down the inside then, oh my goodness me, that was an opportunistic move then, and that could open the door for Fangio as well then, as they're banging wheels once again then, these two, as they've done that already in this season. And I think as Fangio's got the inside line, and they're still fighting tooth and nail, these two. Jenner is off the circuit then at the spoon curve, then Fangio's gone through into, oh my goodness me, he's lost the car almost as well. Then these two fighting then is costing them dearly, as now MHD then is under pressure now from the Williams car as well, as we go into 130R this time, as Jenner has lost out then to the Williams car then as well. We go into the Casio triangle this time, and oh my goodness me, it's close indeed between these three as we go round into lap 10 now. I think it's lap 10 or lap 9, sorry, as we go over the line to start off lap 9 for these drivers. Of course, Dylan and Max have already started away onto lap 9 as well. Then Fangio then takes P3, then up into the podium places now for the Williams car. Great stuff indeed. Then Gordo's got himself past Kamara Racer, then into turn 1 as well. Nigel has been passed by Mumford into turn 1 and 2 as well. Then into the pits comes Craig. He's done 8 laps then on the soft compound tyres, and calling it a day then on the softs, onto a set of hard compounds then for the Ferrari. That is, I think, more reasonable in terms of a strategy then for the Ferrari driver compared to Sweet MGP's attempt then, I think, to try and go to the end on those hard compounds. That's going to be one hell of a stint indeed if he can hold that together then at the end of it. Those tyres are not going to be feeling too good then. Craig Ives coming out the pit lane now. He's going to be behind Dopey Lemons, but ahead of R2 Beat as it stands. Ultra Beastie with that drive through then is still soldering on as well out there, which is good to see. Then hopefully if there's something that goes awry then for another driver, then he can get himself back in this race. We will wait and see then. Max then is 6/10 behind Dylan. Then currently the pole sitter and the second place sitter are sitting status quo as it stands for this race. They're almost coming up to the halfway stage of the Grand Prix. We're at the third of the race stage actually, because that line is a third of 27 if you didn't know that. That's quick maths in my brain. But there we are then. MHD then is all over the back now of Fangio. Then these two are going to be resuming their fight, I think, for a little bit longer then, because they're on the hard compound tyres. They're going to be going longer in this first stint as well. But Jenner then has dropped off the back. He's dropped out of DRS range, unfortunately, then from the two ahead of him. Now here comes Gordo. Then Gordo is on a charge, and Gordo then has got some DRS to play with as well. We go down towards the main straight for the Mercedes driver. Then he's going to go down the inside. Then he's got the move. Then has he? Yes, he has. On the Aston Martin, then takes P5 for Gordo. Great stuff indeed, a great move and fairly done indeed as well. Then can he chase down the two on the hard compound tyres ahead of him, get himself in contention for another podium here as well? Then after his podium in Australia 2 weeks ago, sorry, Sweet has got himself past Irvine now. Those fresher hard compound tyres then working in his favour as it stands then, but will they be able to get to the end of the Grand Prix is another shout indeed. We'll have to wait and see how it's going to unfold then for how it's going to unfold then for the likes of Craig R as well then, who has made his one and only, hopefully, scheduled stop, that is, and we can see what they can do then towards the end of this race as well. Then Mags has dropped out of the 1 second window then of his rival of Dylan. He's got himself back in now, just about then, so that is maybe just a bit of gamesmanship going on between those two, but there we are then. So far so good then. Gordo's got himself back in the 1 second window then of the two on the hard compound tyres, MHD and Fangio. Then as Kamara Racer has got himself past Jenner, then Jenner's off the circuit then at the spoon curve, then trying to get himself back on. Then he has lost out unfortunately then to Kamara, to Mumford and to Nigel. Then he's dropped down the field. I'm not quite sure what happened to Jenner there, if there was contact or if there was just a spin then for the Aston Martin driver as we go down towards 130R. That he's still in the points pair positions as it stands, but unfortunately has lost himself quite a bit of time then and a bit of confidence then for the Aston Martin. Hopefully can get himself back in this race in the next stages or so. Pits come through as well, so calling it a day on the medium compound tyres already, potentially going to the hard compound tyres to the end of this Grand Prix as well. Mr. Elite is also in the pits, calling a day on the soft compound tyres, so he's had a great stint indeed. 10 laps on the softs for the Mercedes driver. That is pretty fearless stuff indeed then. I think those softs probably dropped off half the stint ago. Then he's on to medium compound tyres then for Mr. Elite, so looking to get the medium to the end of the Grand Prix from here. 16 or 17 laps or so would be a bit of a stretch. Then Jenner has also gone for the medium compound tyres as well, So I think he actually wasn't he on the medium compound tyres already, so I'm not quite sure that means he's going to be doing a 2-stop in this Grand Prix. Might not be the ultimate strategy then, but we'll have to wait and see how it plays out then. I think Dopey Evans has caught up to the back of these two coming out the pit lane now as well. Then Craig Gard soldiering on, then he's got 2 seconds gap to the cars ahead then, but he's of course on the fresher tyres. Then those drivers ahead will start to drop off quicker than Craig Gard, then R2B as well on the hard compound tyres, soldiering on out there, saving Ultimate Beast. I keep calling him Mr. Beast for some reason, I'm very sorry. But yeah, there we go. So early for Sweet 100p then. Good stuff indeed. Then into 130R we go then for Max. Can he hold on to this place? And can he get himself into the lead of the Grand Prix, where he hasn't been so far in this 11 laps? But he, of course, qualified on pole position, in second position, then chasing down the pole sitter then of Dylan, then who has kept him honest so far. As almost, oh my goodness me, he's almost into the wall. He has made contact with the wall. Then has Max. Then he's going off at the final corner, and through goes Fangio and MHD. Then Gordo's in the pit lane there, but that is a major blow there for the championship leader. Then Max has had an issue at the exit of the final corner. Then that is costly indeed. I don't think he's got any front wing damage. He's got himself very lucky indeed there. But hopefully he can carry on in this race without having to make a unscheduled stop as well. But unfortunately for Max, and that costly error then has cost him 2 places and a lot of time then to his challenger then of Dylan, who is looking in control of this race as it stands as well. Then out of the pits comes Gordo, then he's behind Irvine then, who has done 11 laps on those hard compound tyres, then up into P11 now for Irvine as well. Yellow flags in sector 2. What's happened there in sector 2? It's sector 1, sorry. It's Reflection then in the S's section, and he's lost the car somewhere. And unfortunately for Reflection, he was running very, very well then on the hard compound tyres, but he's lost the car now under pressure from Irvine and Gordo, of course, on those fresh tyres, medium compound tyres from Mr. Elite and Jinner, and they're going to be very quick indeed as well on those medium compound as we get ourselves through the next stint of this race then. But like I was saying, I think Jinner might have to pit again then, because I'm not quite sure if he started on the medium compound tyres as well then. Kamara Racer picks up the first penalty then of the evening. Gordo's got himself past Reflection then through the hairpin now, and now chasing down Irvine into the spoon curve we go then for the Red Bull, for the Mercedes, for the Alpine as we fly through here. Irvine now into the top 10 with the incident then for Reflection as well then, and now trying to get himself into the fight then. Kamara Racer then is all over the back of Max, then Max is in the pit lane, so is Kamara Racer as well then, so they're calling it a day on the medium compound tyres. Nigel carries on, same for Mumford as well. Here comes Mumford then on the attack then on the Haas as we go into turn 1. Mumford ahead now of the Haas of Nigel then into P4 as it stands. Of course, there is pit stop action then for Kamara Racer and for Max as well. Where will they come out? I think Max has made a wing change then, because he's come out behind Kamara Racer then suddenly. So I think there has been an issue then for Max. Then he had to sort that out then, as here we go then down the main straight. Jinner then has got the overspeed then on the Alfa Romeo then into turn 1 and ahead on the medium compound tyres then ahead of Kamara Racer then, who's picked up, like I said, the only penalty then of the evening so far then, unless you want to count Ultimate Beast drive-through penalty, which he has served now and got out of the way. Yeah, unfortunately then for Ultimate Beast, then he's got to soldier on then as much as he can, or as best as he can then with that penalty then that has cost him dearly so far. Potentially, if there's a safe guy who can bring himself back into the race, then we'll have to wait and see then. But so far it's been pretty clean out there for Silver. Half of the way through the race then, I probably jinxed it now as well then, so there we go. And Sirius Bushman said he was just about to say all Irish podium. I'm not quite sure where MHD Nick is from. But we've currently got two Irish on the podium. But MHD Nick is trying to get himself in between the two Irishmen then to take away that P2 position then from Fangio then into the final corner then, a bit squirrely then for the Alpine, then lost himself a bit of time, a bit of traction as well as we go down towards towards turn 1. Mumford in the pit lane, same for Nigel as well then, coming into the box now, calling it a day on those medium compound tyres. Is the time then for the medium compound tyres done and dusty then, as Gordo's got himself past Irvine and Reflection. Now he's got himself a nice healthy gap then to those two as well as they battle through the Casio triangle now down the hill towards the main straight. Then here comes a Reflection then with some DRS assistance as well. Down the main straight we go then, flying through with some DRS then as Vessier has left the session. Unfortunately Vessier then was out of the race then before it even got started then, unfortunately for Vessier's case, because he lagged out then and couldn't get himself back in the car, and the car just DNF'd itself on its own. Which was a big shame indeed, because Vessier was looking strong then for a good result here in Suzuka tonight. And Nigel coming out the pit lane then in P12, Mumford in P11. There's still stoppers yet to stop, that is. Still drivers yet to stop, I should say, in the likes of Dylan, the likes of Fanjo, the likes of MHD, the likes of Farf, the likes of Reflection, Irvine in P7 and P8 as well. Then, so there's plenty of places to be gained still in this Grand Prix. Just need to get your head down now and soldier on. Then, as we've got Reflection and Irvine resuming their battle. Then through the hairpin this time, as here comes Jinner as well. Then Jinner is getting himself in those medium compound tyres, those much fresher medium compound tyres through the fight. Then around the outside then of the Alpine in towards the spoon curve. Then he's got the inside now for the spoon curve, and all over the back this time now of Irvine as we go through into the nice long straight then towards 130 on, then into the pit comes the next speed, then calling it there on the hard compound tyres before Dylan has already even called it a day on the medium compound tyres, to be fair, which is quite interesting stuff indeed. Kamal Rachel's got himself past Reflection, then into 130R, then trying to hold on to Jinner as well. Then as we go through the Casio Triangle, there's contact between Jinner and Irvine, then into the Casio Triangle. Then Jinner's got a 3-second penalty then for his troubles, as here comes Kamara Racer as well, then flying through. Irvine's going to the pit lane, then Reflection stays out then, but there's all sorts of issues going on there. Thankfully no driver then got anything too dangerous. That wasn't too bad though, I should say, for some drivers. Then medium tyres then for MHD, then he come out in P6 then, looking strong indeed and soldiering on then here in this race. Kamara Racer then up into P8, then Reflection staying out then in P9 as it stands. In Mumford P10 now into back over into the top 10 then for the Alpha Tauri. Then Nigel then just outside in P11. Then out of the pit lane comes Irvine. Medium compound tyres then for the Red Bull car, as we've got a bit of action. Then I think there was I think Irvine was trying to get himself into the pit lane, wasn't he? But there was the cars on the other side. Then Reflection's being passed then by Mumford into P9 now for the Alpha Tauri driver. Then Reflection, of course, on the much older tyres is soldiering on out there, you could say, on those hard compound tyres. I think they'll be able to get themselves to the end of the Grand Prix. No, they won't, sorry, because he hasn't made a pit stop at all, so he will have to make a pit stop at some point in this race. But so far he has chosen not to do so at this stage. Here comes Nigel then on the back of Reflection as we go in towards the spoon curve once again, trying to chase down. He needs to get himself past Reflection quite quickly, to be fair, because he's got to try and keep up with Mumford, who is now trying to stretch his legs as well. Then MHD's got himself past Sweet MVP then on the old hard compound tyres then for Sweet MVP. Then Nigel's got himself past Reflection as well. Then down towards 130R we go, and ahead of the Alpine. But unfortunately for Nigel, then he's lost out to the DRS then, or the DRS range I should say then, of Mumford, I should say, that is. But Mag's now into the fight as well, trying to get himself back in this race. Then Swinton's back in the pit lane. Reflection is also in the pit lane as well, then calling it a day then on the hard compound tyres. Soft compound tyres then for Swinton. Then he's done an interesting strategy indeed. Gone from mediums to hards to softs then in this race so far. Reflection onto a set of medium compound tyres and back out underway. Then a bit of a slope, and that's just a bit of a glitch then, never mind. So ignore that. But coming down the main straight now, Swinton going to come out ahead of RGB. It was going to be close indeed between the Aston Martin and the McLaren, then into turn one, then, and the McLaren is ahead just about. Good stuff indeed. On the soft compound tyres he goes, and away we go then for the Alpine of Reflection as well. Then on the medium compound tyres here as well. Then still some stops to come, I think, so we'll have to wait and see. It looks like Dylan is soldering on out there. He's got a 2.8 second lead then to Fanjo. The hard compound tyres are starting to eat into the medium compound time, but still that sizable gap that Dylan had then after the initial few laps then is really helping him then hold on to that lead then, and hold on to that gap then for the time being. Will he call it a day very soon and come in the pit lane? Yes, he will. Then he's into the pits now and calling it on those medium compound tyres. Same for Fanjo as well, and so both the top two into the box then. Gordo is flying then, says Sirius Rushman. Yes, he is then. Gordo up into P4 as it stands then. Where is Gordo going to be in terms of the rest of the pit stoppers, though? That is the question. He's got MHD now for company, because that Alpine is very quick indeed then. But where he's going to come out in relation, as MHD then has set the fastest lap of the race, and here he comes then on the back of the Mercedes then up into P3, and now as Gordo got a nice little undercut then on Dylan, trying to go around the outside of turn 1 and 2, then he can't quite make it, and Dylan's come out on the soft compound tyres in P3, then just ahead of the Mercedes, then just behind the Alpine of MHD as well then. Interesting stuff indeed. So far so good, as this race has been entertaining. It's been strategies all over the place, to be fair. Irvine sets the fastest lap of the race. That's good stuff indeed from Irvine there, soldering on. Then he's got the extra point in for the fastest lap as it stands as well. Fantastic stuff indeed. He's got himself past R2B as well, then down into turn 1 and 2 and into P15 now for the Red Bull car. Good stuff indeed. Farf is yet to pit, then he's got a 3.6 second gap then in the lead of this Grand Prix, but that gap will come down very quickly indeed to the medium compound tyres of MHD and the softs of Dylan and the hards of Gordo. to be fair. So that is looking quite strong indeed. Then as Fangio then on the medium compound tyres, then he's 2 point. I think he's had an issue. Then he stopped because he wasn't too far behind. He was only about 2.5 seconds, I should say, behind Dylan then when they pitted. But he's now over 3 seconds, and that is Ultimate Beast then with the penalty as well. Then unfortunately, Ultimate Beast then through the first and second Degners, not having a great time out there, unfortunately. But fair play to him for soldiering on in this Grand Prix. We've got penalties then for Gino and for Kamara Racer. Then Gino and Kamara Racer are both together on track as well. Then so this could get spicy indeed. Then as we go into the Casio Triangle now. Mumford is caught up to this fight too, and looking to get himself involved as we go down the main straight. Then here comes Dylan then on the Alpine of MHD, then into turn 1, into P1 and back up into P1 then for the McLaren, of course, where he put himself on pole position then on the soft compound tyres this time, and he's back on the soft compound tyres in this race as well then. Good stuff indeed. Then Mr. Elite up into the P10. Then good stuff from Mr. Elite. Then he's soldiering on that there. Craigar coming down the main straight. 300 P sets the fastest down the race. Then trying to get himself past Doe. P11's then in the background then. But Craigar is taking P11 away from Farf, who is pitted for the soft compound tyres here. Good stuff indeed. R2B is back in the pit lane. R2B is going to go for the soft compound tyres as well, I imagine, to get himself to the end of this Grand Prix here. Lap 18 of 27. Then we are 2/3 of the way through this race so far. Medium compound tyres then for the Aston Martin of R2B as it stands then. Farf and Craigar then battling away then through. Where's Craigar gone? There he is. No, yeah, there he is, yes. So unfortunately for Craigar, I think he had a bit of a problem then through Dunlop, because Farf is now steaming away from him on those soft compound tyres. The softs are going to be very quick indeed, of course, in this in the next couple of laps or so, but of course they might start to drop off towards the end of the Grand Prix. We'll have to wait and see. Of course, the fuel loads are getting lighter in these cars as we go through the race itself as well then, so that will help then the soft compound tyres stay alive then for a couple more laps than they would do at the beginning. But we don't know. We just don't know. So that's the way it's going to go then. As into the Casio Triangle once again. Then Gino is lining up a move then, I think, on the Alfa Romeo then of Kamara Racer. Sorry, Dylan sets the fastest lap of the race then, as Kamara Racer is getting a great traction out of that final corner. Then that's helping him very nicely indeed. Try and stay ahead then of the Aston Martin of Gino then to go down towards turn 1 onto lap 19 then. Kamara Racer holds on then for the time being. Into turn 2 we go then. Mr. Elite, sorry, not Mr. Elite, Mumford and Gino then all over the back then, as we've got more action in the back then. Mags has got himself past Nigel into P8 as it stands. Of course, trying to recover then after that spin as well then, which was a big shame then for the championship leader. Then it's cost him dearly so far in this race. Then there's a lot of drivers that he has to get through if he wants to get himself back into the podium contention as well. Then we'll have to wait and see. We've seen from him in previous races that Mags has got the pace, so we will have to find out then, can he get himself back into contention then for some big points here. Currently in P8, got himself back into the points pen position. No mean feat regardless, so he's done a good job then to get himself back into P8. Then can he get some more, as we've got an issue then I think for Kamara Racer then, almost losing the car out the hairpin there, and that's going to entice Gino then to try and get himself past into P5 as it stands, that is. Of course, penalties permitting. There's penalties then for Kamara and for Gino then to be added onto their race times at the end of the Grand Prix. And I think Gino has got himself a 5-second penalty to be added onto his race time at the end of the Grand Prix as well. Then, for instance, in Australia as well. Then same for Nigel then in P9 as it stands. Then that would not affect him. He's 6.8 seconds ahead then of Mr. Elite. Here we go then into the Casio Triangle. Then not the Casio Triangle. Some 130 yard. Then it's going to go side by side between the Alfa Romeo and here comes the Alfa Tauri down the inside as well. Then, blimey, that was ambitious. That was ambitious to say the least. As into the pits comes Gino, then he called it a day then on the medium compound tyres already. So unfortunately, I think Gino then realising that he has to come in the pit lane now, as here comes Mags then trying to make it a 2-car overtake then into turn 1. We're going to go, oh my god, this is going to get close indeed then. Oh dear, they're squeezing, it's squeezing. And blimey, oh my goodness, that was very close indeed. And I thought that was going to be a catastrophic incident then, but the drivers then keeping it clean, then keeping their heads and keeping it cool then, and putting on a good show indeed as well. Mumford up into P5 now. Mags then chasing down P5 in P6 currently for Mags. Kamara Racer down to P7, then Nigel in P8 then as it stands as well. Then these four then are going to be resuming their fight then for the points positions. Kamara's gone very wide then. Kamara's up the circuit. Where's Kamara going? He's got himself back on then, and unfortunately has cost himself dearly. Then that slide then for the Alfa Romeo then has put him down to contention then for the P5 as it was at the time. But hopefully he can get himself back underway. Then he's still on for some points here. If it goes his way, then we'll have to wait and see then if he can hold on then. But so far, unfortunately then for the Alfa Romeo, but he's still in the points position regardless as well. Even with that penalty as well, he will still get himself some good points here for Kamara Racer then, who had a difficult season as well then, unfortunately for Kamara, and hopefully Hopefully, he did score some good points in Australia last 2 weeks ago, but hopefully he can keep up that form as well then. Speaking of keeping up the form then, we saw Gordo on the podium then in Australia then, and he's keeping up the form so far here in Suzuka as well. Then Favre's got himself past Mr. Elite then. Oh dear, Mr. Elite, where's he going? I thought he was flying off the circuit then at 130. I thought Favre giving a bit of argy-bargy then, but nope, he's got himself back underway then, unfortunately for Favre. For Mr. Elite, sorry, Favre's ahead of him now. Junior's got himself ahead of Ultimate Beast, has he? Yes, he has, just about then on the soft compound tyres then into the Casio Triangle we go then, trying to line up a move then on Dopey Lemons very soon, as Dopey Lemons I think is coming into the pit lane, and yes he is, so he has called it a day then on those medium compound tyres now, and flying down the main straight we go then for Junior, of course, on the soft compounds, and so he's going to be trying to go very quickly indeed then on those soft compounds to get himself back into the top 10 as it stands. And he has got a 3-second note as well that we added onto his race time, so that might negatively impact his top 10 ambitions as well very soon. Gordo, it's Dopey Lemon onto the soft compound tyres, then away he goes. Ultimate Beast then is soldiering on those 17 laps on the medium compound tyres. That's a pretty good stint indeed on those tyres we saw, of course, like I said, in gold, 20 laps or so for some of the drivers then on the medium compound tyres, but they handled it very well indeed. R2B then is not too far away then on those medium compound tyres as well. Then out in front, Dylan has got a 1.8 second lead then over MHD then, who is looking strong on his debut here as a reserve then for Potstuff in the Alpine. And on for a good podium, it looks like as well. Here comes Gordo all over the back then of Fangio. Then Fangio is struggling then to shake off the Mercedes here as Gordo's trying to go for that podium once again. Then a double podium, or a back-to-back podium, I should say. Then even with the break week in between then. But here comes Gordo then through the Casio Triangle. Then he has got some DRS. Then he's not far away. Then he's only 0.2 of a second then as we get the DRS activated then on the Mercedes. Down the main straight we go. Then here comes Gordo down the inside. He's got the position. He's got the podium in his hands as it stands. As well, good stuff indeed, and fair play indeed then from Fangio as well then, but good battling once again then from both the two drivers, then up into the podium places now for the Mercedes driver, and looking good here in Suzuka as well then, great stuff. Mags is all over the back of Mumford, but can't get himself past the AlphaTauri just yet then, so hopefully he can kick on then very soon. Then we'll have to wait and see then, because of course the championship contender then is not where he wants to be as it stands. R2B's got himself past Ultimate Beast then into a P17, both those two drivers then soldiering on out there after first lap, or first couple of laps incidents, unfortunately then with the wing changes unfortunately that had to come into play, but they can get themselves some points in this race then if they get themselves a fastest lap point at the end of the Grand Prix still. Nigel then is all over the back of Mags then as we go into the hairpin, and these are the this is a bit of a queue then forming behind the fifth place Mumford as it stands there. 3.6 seconds the gap then between P5 and the top 4. Actually, it's quite a significant gap then between the top 4, between fifth to seventh then, and the top 4 then, and another big gap then between P3 and P4 and the top 2. So the gap, it has come down then between Dylan and MHD then to 1.2 seconds. Then MHD could be in line for a debut Grand Prix victory here in Suzuka. Then this could be very good stuff indeed then for the Alpine team. But I'm sure Dylan will have something to say about that as well then as we go down towards turn 1 then for the 23rd time. Then we've got we've got 5 laps remaining then, including this one, as we go through in towards turn 1. Fangio too far back then to make a move. Then here comes Mags then on the back of Mumford, but still too far back as well then to make a move, unfortunately then for Mags as we go into turn 1, like I said, for the 23rd time. Then there's only 4.5 laps remaining now as we get ourselves into the twilight zone then of this Suzuka Grand Prix. The question is then, will Dylan hold on those soft compound tyres then? Can he hold on to the lead of this Grand Prix then? 1 point, we've got yellow flags then. Yellow flags, it's the Kamara Racer then at the S's section, and Kamara Racer has cost himself dearly then once again, unfortunately for Kamara. He is off the circuit and he's come back on, but unfortunately he's out of the point pen positions now as well for Kamara. Then I think the only option now is to go for the soft compound tyres and try and get yourself that fastest lap point. We've got yellow flags, I think, for Ultimate Beast then in the background coming into the pit lane now as well. And calling it a day then on the medium compound tyres, 19 laps on those medium compound tyres is pretty interesting stuff indeed. Pretty good strategy indeed as well then. Driver of the day then is in the comment section. You've got Dylan, Gordo, Fangio and Mr. Elite then as your candidates. Then we'll have a look at the position changes as well. Then Dylan, of course, has qualified on pole position and is staying in pole position as it stands, that is. But MHD might have something to say about that. Gordo has gained 12 places then. But of course, that Williams of Fangio then is looming in his wing mirrors as well. Then Fangio then has gained 9 places. It could be 10 places then at the end of this Grand Prix. We'll have to wait and see. But at the moment then, it's between Gordo and Fangio then for me as well. Mr. Elite then has done a good job. Then he's up 8 places then into P9. Farf's gained 10 places, but we don't want to count him for driver of the day anyway, so there we go then. Fangio then couldn't get himself past then into turn 1. Same for Mags once again. Then Mumford has got some great straight line speed in that AlphaTauri then to hold off the Ferrari. Then the championship leader then he's holding off the championship leader then into turn 1. Lap after lap then. Lap 24 has commenced then 4.5 laps or so to go, or 4 and a bit laps to go in this Grand Prix here. And hopefully we can keep our heads on and keep our hats on as well then for the drivers then, and keeping our heads cool then for this rest of the Suzuka Grand Prix. If I can get any words out with too many S's and Z's in that sentence, but there we are. So far so good for Dylan. He's holding off that Alpine as it stands then, 1.2 seconds the gap then, but can he hold off then for the next 3 laps or 3.5 laps or so as we get ourselves through the last few knockings then of this Grand Prix here as well then. Dylan, Fangio, Gordo and Mr. Elite then are your candidates and driver of the day then, and there you go, get your votes into the comment section as quickly as you can. And of course you might want to wait until the last few laps are completed then, because we want to see where they are actually going to end up then. But here we are then into Spoon Curve then, in the Casio Triangle then. MHD then all over the back of Dylan as we go through into the Casio Triangle then, and he's got himself in that DRS range as well. This could be dangerous stuff indeed then for the McLaren driver then. The championship contender then is under pressure as we go down towards turn 1 onto lap 25. 3 laps remain here in this Grand Prix, and now MHD is going to be lining up a move, I think, for the race win. We could see the Alpine on the top step then of the podium. We'll have to wait and see then. He's done a great job so far in this Grand Prix. Mags has finally got himself past Mumford then into P5 now as we get ourselves underway then. Fangio couldn't get himself past Gordo then. I think Fangio might be waiting in the wings then, trying to prize that podium away from Gordo at the last minute then, but we'll have to wait and see then. MHD then is all over the back now of Dylan as well then. This race lead could come down to the last lap. We'll have to wait and see then. Race win I should say could come down to the last lap as well. Actually Mags is catching up to Gordo and Fangio as well then. Gordo is holding up the Williams car then as we go into sector 2 then for the 25th time, and Max is actually on the charge here. Look at this, he's up 1.6 seconds. It's down to 1.5 seconds between the Williams and the Ferrari. He could get himself in contention then for the final podium place then at this in the final lap. It could be close indeed. There's the Ferrari in the background then as the Mercedes and the Williams fly through. It could be a lot closer than we think actually towards the end of this Grand Prix, and Mumford and Nigel are being dragged along with this battle as well then, so they all could be in contention for a podium place as it stands, and it could go either way. It could go any way. We'll have to wait and see then. Ultimate Beast to set the fastest lap of the race then. Good stuff from Ultimate Beast then for Soldier Run out there as well. Then here comes MHD then into the main straight then. Dylan then is in control of this race and has been in control of the race, but MHD then is going to try and power through there on the medium top line tires. He has got himself through up into the race lead then on lap 26 then, penultimate lap then of the Grand Prix, as here comes Fangio then as well, lining up a move then into P3, takes away the podium place then from Gordo, up into the podium places now for Fangio in the Williams. Good stuff indeed for him. Bad news for Gordo, unfortunately, but Gordo is still in for a good result here as well. Then Mr. Elite has been passed by Sweeter P, then down towards turn 1, up into P9 then for the McLaren driver. Into the pits comes Kamara Racer then for the for the soft compound tires, I think. So that is that then for Kamara. Unfortunately, that race was not going his way then towards the end. Then Dylan is trying to stay with the Alpine then of MHD then as we go into the final knockings then of this Grand Prix. Gordo still all over the back of Fangio. Then Fangio trying to fend off the Mercedes then for that final attempt. Then I think it's going to be one more attempt as we go on to the final lap then with DRS down the main straight. Then Kamara Racer in the pit lane, R2B also in the pit lane as well then as they go for the soft compound tyres here, but it is going to get very spicy indeed, I would imagine, as we go through Spoon Curve. Here comes Dylan on the back of the Alpine now as he is all over the back of the Alpine already then as we go up towards 130R. This could get very tasty indeed then. Junior and Mr. Elite then battling away then for the final points pair position then as we go round the hill then, and it looks like Junior then trying to side up a move on the soft compound tyres. We'll come back to that battle because we need to look at the battle here for the race lead and for potentially the race win as well. Then here comes Dylan then down to the main straight. Then DRS of course going to be available then for the McLaren. Here he comes then for the attack then on the final lap then onto lap 27 then of 27. We've got there in the end then, but no, here he comes. He's taken the move then, has he? Yes, he has then into P1 then on the final lap then. In the background, here comes Gorda then on the charge then for P3. Can he get the move back ahead of Vanjo? Yes, he can then into turn 1. He's got the position then up into the podium places, back up into podium places, I should say. Fantastic stuff indeed from Gorda, but Dylan then is holding out then for the race win on those old soft compound tyres compared to MHD on the medium compound tyres. He's done a great job then of playing the games, I think, then as well, and getting himself back into contention then with the DRS as well. Then great stuff indeed. Then can they all hold on for the final lap? Then let's have a look and see. Let's wait and see as we cross into the hairpin. Then we're halfway through the final lap here as we get ourselves into the final stages then of the race then for Silver Season 7 round 12 as well. Get your votes in for driver of the day then. That is getting pretty good indeed, isn't it? This race has been pretty epic between Dylan and between MHD and between all the rest of the drivers, to be fair. Unfortunately, we had two retirements then. Vessia then on the start then because he couldn't get himself back in the car, and Hassel then with the exit of the hairpin, unfortunately as well. Then, but here we go then into the final corners as we finish off lap 27 of 27 then. MHD, has he got anything to play with then into the Casio triangle? Not quite. He's too far back then, and here comes Dylan then for the championship contention. Then he's got himself into the lead of the Grand Prix with a pole position. Then he's got himself the race win here as well then in fantastic style. Then great stuff indeed from the McLaren driver, 0.4 of a second ahead of his rival of MHD then in this Japanese Grand Prix. He claims pole position, he claims the victory here for the McLaren team as well. Great stuff from Dylan in the McLaren. MHD then P2, then a great debut then of course on his first appearance as well then in the Alpine, and looking strong indeed. Then Gorda does get P3, not sure how at the Fandra, then he's had an incident then looks like at the final corner. Then Mags into P4. Great recovery drive then from Mags then after the spin. Mumford P5, Nigel in P6 then. He has a 5-second penalty. That'll be added on to his race time, but he won't lose any places then because Farf is too far back then in P7. 300p in P8, then Mr. Elite in P9, Gino in P10, but he has got a 5-second penalty to be added on to his race time, so that will promote Irvine up into P10. Reflection in P12, then Craig R in P13, Kamara Racer in P14. Dopey Lemons then is going to cross the line in P15. Unfortunately for Fandra, then he DNF'd before he got to the finish line, I think, which is very odd indeed. Yellow flags then on the main straight. I think that's for Craig R's car. But R2B then is going to cross the line then in P16. Then Ultimate Beast then P17. But not quite sure what happened then. There's a Ferrari then parked pretty precariously then at the exit of the main straight, that is. As Ultimate Beast then crosses the line then into P17 then. Blimey, what a race that was there. Nice race that says a serious question then. Good evening from Pilbeam indeed. But great racing indeed then from all the drivers in this one as well. Fantastic stuff indeed. I'm very happy, and hopefully we can get some interviews underway then very quickly indeed as well. There is your race winner then, your pole sitter then, and your race winner then for Dylan in P1 then for this Grand Prix, Japanese Grand Prix, claims then the victory here in here in Suzuka then, and a fantastic win for McLaren as well then. MHD then with a fantastic race then. He got himself a podium then on his first reserve appearance as well. Great stuff from the Alpine driver then. And Gorda then does round off the podium then, a double podium then for Gorda then, of course back-to-back podiums I should say, after Australia 2 weeks ago then, before the break week then. But those are your podium sitters that will run through the classification very quickly then for the Japanese Grand Prix Silver Season 7 round 12 then. Dylan is your race winner then, MHD in P2, Gordo P3, Mags then recovering to P4, Mumford in P5, Nigel in P6, and actually a candidate for driver of the day for myself as well then. Great stuff from Nigel. Farf in P7, Swindler P in P8, then Mr. Elite in P9. Good result from Mr. Elite as well then. Jinner in is actually in P11 then, with the penalties from his previous race then added on. So Irvine in P10, Jinner in P11, then Reflection P12, Craig R P13, Kamara Racer P14, Dopey Lemons P15, R2 Beat P16, Ultimate Beast P17, and does get the fastest lap point as well then for the Red Bull team and himself, of course. Great stuff indeed. Fangio unfortunately has DNF then on the final lap then. Not quite sure what happened there. We'll have to review that after the race. I think there might be something to be looked at there. Hassel then in P19 unfortunately retired then very early on with an incident at the exit of the hairpin then, and Vessia then didn't take the start of the race at the end of this one as well. Fantastic stuff indeed. Well, it doesn't look like anybody's joining us for the podium interviews. I'm not quite sure if they have or not, to be honest, but there we are. Fantastic stuff. Well done to the drivers then who got themselves on the podium. That was, of course, Dylan, your race winner, then MHD then in P2 and Gordo in P3. Once again, then it's a great result then from all the drivers then who got themselves to the finish line. And unfortunately, we haven't got anybody joining us in the interviews. Then Dylan takes the driver of the day poll in the comment section. So well done to Dylan as well then for a fantastic race. But yeah, great stuff indeed. Well, thank you very much for joining us as well then, of course. We have got, of course, some more bronze action coming up for you in less than 24 hours time now. And that will be here in Suzuka as well then. So stay tuned for bronze then tomorrow night from 7:30 p.m. then. And of course, the 100% League Realistic Performance as well is coming back on Wednesday night in Qatar for 7:30 p.m. as well then. So stay tuned. There's plenty more action coming up here on ALR and we'll see you very soon.